Kia ora koutou, Markie here. So a little while ago I posted a video inviting you to ask me any questions about retroactive jealousy. And today is the follow-up to that with the answers to those questions. Now there's a little bit of confusion because I think this is when I post links to videos on Facebook. People don't always realise it's a video; they just see the thumbnail, which had the question on it. So we'll get to that in a minute. So some people got a bit confused, and then it ended up with kind of some general discussion and all kinds of things. So I think I've nailed down what are the kind of key questions and what was just kind of conversation and discussion. So I can hit you with the answers. Now, before I do that, please, if you are not signed up to Facebook, if you're signed up, I get my Facebooks and my YouTubes mixed up. If you're signed up to YouTube, please hit the like button. And if you're not signed up to YouTube, please sign up to YouTube so that you can hit the like button. And then you can comment on any YouTube video, which is great fun. And also consider subscribing. You can subscribe to our channel. You can support us basically if you're signed up to YouTube. You can't support us so well if you're not. And it's quite easy to sign up to YouTube. What else can you do? Yeah, give us a like, give us a nice comment. You can always ask follow-up questions as well. So this isn't the end. You can always ask us questions about retroactive jealousy. That's fine. So, okay, with that out of the way, let's fire into the questions. Now, I've kind of copied from... So some of the people responded on YouTube next to the video and some people responded on Facebook. And I think I've collated all the questions. And I've got them in writing in front of me. The formatting of this is terrible, by the way, but that's how it is. But I thought rather than showing you my ugly mug, I'd show you the questions in writing, and then it's easier to follow. Now, I'm not going to do this generally in a particular order, but there are a couple that obviously seem to beg to be answered first. So one is Angel Harmony Valen. What is retroactive jealousy? First time I heard it. And then Raven asked a similar question but slightly more challenging. Where's that? She asked the question, can you sum up RJ in a sentence? Yes, next question. So I'll attempt to do that in just 1 second. Just one other thing, because people have asked questions, I've included their names. If you don't want to have your name included here, let me know as soon as possible, please. As we don't want to compromise anyone's anonymity. Let's see if we can answer both questions in one go. Can you sum up RJ in a sentence? Yes, retroactive jealousy is a form of obsessive compulsive disorder that focuses around distress around one's partner's romantic and or sexual history. So it's a form of obsessive compulsive. So that's the sentence. Okay, done that one for Raven. Done it in a sentence, and quite a short sentence as well for me. So obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, is a form of that. So obsessive compulsive disorder has three key parts really. One is obsessions, which are thoughts, compulsions, which are actions, and it's a disorder, which means we're all a bit compulsive and we're all a bit obsessive at times and around different things, but it's only a problem when it's a problem, and that's when it's a disorder. So a lot of people will say, oh, I'm a bit OCD about this or a bit OCD about that. No, you're not. If you've got OCD, you'll know it because it'll be ruining your life. Okay, it'll be making your life horrible. So that's the disorder part. So it's a form of obsessive compulsive disorder, but it's kind of similar in a way to intrusive thoughts, which is a form of OCD. It has a lot of the same components of that, but there are actions. The compulsions usually are trying to seek reassurance and seeking information. So people with retroactive jealousy will constantly ask their partners questions about their romantic and or sexual history. and usually or often they will get temporary relief from asking the questions, but then the cycle starts all over again, or temporary relief from having answers to the questions, or they will seek information in other ways, sometimes naughty ways, by invading their partner's privacy by going into reading diaries or going into their old Facebook posts and things like that. So that's what retroactive jealousy is. Okay, so so Ed has asked, what does the World Health Organization think about it? Which is a great question. Now I had another similar question. So Trudy Jones, I believe as a therapist myself, this is more common than people may think. I've worked with clients feeling into this and processing their jealousy around this subject. I'm interested to hear others. Yeah, more common than you think. It is very common, but it's very seldom talked about. So Ed's question and Tom Mortelang's question here. My question would be, how do we get it to be recognised as a genuine mental health issue, neurodivergence? It's a nightmare trying to get anything through the NHS. So for those of you not from the UK, the NHS is the National Health Service. It's the state-funded health service in Britain. For example, because it isn't listed, even when I hurt myself pretty badly, the response was, you've had some depression and mixed anxiety. Well, yes, it's not recognised by any of the key bodies in mental health, such as the NHS or the World Health Organization. They do recognise obsessive compulsive disorder, so but not yet retroactive jealousy. That's why hardly anybody's heard of it, and certainly most kind of clinicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, counsellors, psychotherapists, generally speaking, will not have heard of it. We're trying to change that by getting the word out there, but it's not actually recognised as a thing in itself yet. Now, Tom's question would be, not so much is it recognised, how do we get it to be recognised? Well, that's part of our work. So if you support this channel, because a big part of our work is spreading the word about this stuff. So if you support our YouTube channel, then or you can support us on Patreon as well. It's another way to support us. There's lots of different ways you can support us. They're all ways to help get this condition recognised. And what you can do is, if you know anybody that's in the mental health profession or the medical profession, you can make them aware of it, and you can send them links to resources and information such as our website. So okay, so we've done well. I think we've answered a few of those questions. So Matt Johnson, what is a worse problem, our own security or the judgment we hold against our partner? Now I think this question presupposes a few things. So insecurity is something that's been identified to be a big factor in retroactive jealousy, particularly Zachary Stockhill. He talks about insecurity a lot, or the judgment we hold against our partner. So retroactive jealousy is there's a huge amount of judging of our partner in this condition, holding things against them. Yes, very much so. What's the worst problem? It's a very difficult question to answer, really. The insecurity or the judgment. I think that the insecurity is a causative factor that's behind the retroactive jealousy. It's not the only cause by any means. Don't let anybody tell you that it is the only cause, but I think it is certainly a big factor. Or the judgment. The judgment is a symptom. So I don't think I can say that one thing is worse than the other. One is part of the cause, and the other is part of the effect. So they're both equally problematic. But I guess if you deal with the cause, then the effect is going to be minimised. That's the best I can answer that, really. So Morgan Dando, does removing the good versus bad binary values that we often associate with emotions like jealousy enable folk to access support? For example, does normalising the experience of retroactive jealousy as a human experience alleviate shame and then enable people to actually seek and access help? Thank you. I didn't realise I was curious about this. Yes, normalising it. I've got to be careful how I want to be very precise in how I answer this. So normalising it as a disorder, yes, but not normalising it as the experience of the normal human experience, because this is something that's pathological. This isn't about the normal feelings or experiences that people have. This is somebody with an illness that has this problem. Normalising the illness definitely has a massive help, because generally speaking, because it's not very well known, or not very well known about, people tend to be alone with it. They realise what's going on for them, but they don't. They think they're the only one usually, and they can't make sense of it because they don't realise it's a condition, it's a thing. Once you, for example, if you suffer with something and you don't realise that it's actually something that has a definite and common symptoms in lots of different people, it makes lots more sense of it. So like migraine, a lot of people that first have migraine are terrified because they've got no idea what's going on. They think they're dying, or they think they're having a stroke or something like that. But when people say, the fact that you couldn't see properly, your vision went, you couldn't talk properly, you get getting, flashing lights in front of your eyes, that's all normal for migraine. It's like, thank God for that, It's nothing weird, not some weird rare condition that I suffer from, it's a thing. So definitely in that sense, Morgan, yes, and that's a big part of what we do as well. We put a lot of information out there so people just realise, oh, thank goodness, it's, I'm not the only one. So definitely. So we're doing well. I started numbering these questions and then I kind of gave up because the formatting, the one I copied and pasted from the Facebook went crazy. So we've answered that. Right, so Andy. Now, Andy got a bit confused. I think Andy, maybe his response made me laugh because he kind of got quite cross with me and then wished me a Merry Christmas. He thought that it didn't realise that it was a video talking about a follow-up video. He thought it was me asking questions and then not giving the answers, or trapping people and tricking people into following a link or some other means to get the answers, rather than just answering on the Facebook. But then later on he realised maybe you're actually asking for questions which you respond to in your video. Yes, I was, yeah. So no hard feelings there. So Oriana Ascanio, if I pronounced that correctly, is it normal to sometimes feel sad about my husband's previous marriage? Or does that mean I have a problem? It's not something that eats at me all the time, but every so often, especially around holidays, I feel sad that we couldn't have a family because of our circumstances, which is weird because I never wanted to be a mum. It's more like I get sad, resentful that I don't have that option. Sorry if this is TMI. No, it's not TMI. That's a really good question. Yeah, I think that kind of thing is normal. And that's the difference between something being a disorder and not a disorder. If this is something that you were thinking about every day or almost every day, or it was, maybe your periods, you can get periods of remission with retroactive jealousy where it goes away, but it comes back. It takes, when it's retroactive jealousy, it takes over your life. So this, what you're describing is a normal human reaction to something. So this is more of a comment than a question. Robin Ap Clericus: it's a total waste of time and energy, and no good can come of dwelling on something that cannot be changed. It can only come from the insecurity that the current relationship is somewhat inferior. It's a really interesting comment. So yes, it is a total waste of time and energy, but it's an illness. It's people can't. People feel, that's the very nature of intrusive thoughts, is you don't want to think the thoughts, but they keep coming. So it's not foolishness. Somebody with retroactive jealousy shouldn't be told, well, just stop thinking about it. It's like telling somebody with pain just to forget it. But it's interesting. It can only come from the insecurity. So insecurity, you've hit on something accurate there, Robin. But the current relationship is somewhat inferior. That's interesting because actually the reality is retroactive jealousy only tends to kick in when people value the relationship, and sometimes they overvalue the relationship and put the partner on a pedestal. So it only happens in relationships that we value. If somebody's in a mediocre relationship, retroactive jealousy does not kick in. It's only when you're in love and you think this is the one, this is the person for me. That's when retroactive jealousy comes in. So Andy Everett again. Is not most unhealthy actions retroactive? I'm referring to trauma. Well, yeah, lots of mental health conditions relate to the past affecting the present. Um, but it's important not to get too hooked up on the word. Retroactive is just the name for this. And it's a very specific thing, retroactive jealousy. So we're not talking in general terms about retroactive issues. We're talking about a specific condition that has very specific indefinite symptoms. Drew C. I'm wondering how long recovery would typically be for a guy who's bothered by his partner having a high number of sexual partners. I don't really suffer from the OCD side of things. It's more just a general disgust I have when I think of her number. That's tricky because, if it doesn't have the OCD symptoms, it's probably not retroactive jealousy, and it's probably to do with values. It's probably to do with you think that a certain number is okay and a certain number is not okay. The very nature of retroactive jealousy as a condition is that it's irrational, and it's what we call ego dystonic rather than ego syntonic. So it goes against our normal values. So for example, I'll explain that in proper English. What that means is if you're sex positive and you believe it's okay to have a number of partners, it's okay to have one night stands, it's okay to have brief relationships, for example, or a number of relationships, but you are hung up about your partner having done that, that's irrational, because there's a conflict between your values and how you're actually feeling about your partner. If you actually feel that somebody should not have more than X sexual partners, or if they have more than X sexual partners, that's a really bad sign of some bad character or not the kind of person that you want to be with. That's about values, and that's not about OCD. So in terms of how long recovery would be, how can you recover from your values? I have done a video that talks about not being too attached to your values and being willing to poke and prod them. But ultimately, it's about whether you're willing to change those values, or it's the case of forgiveness. If you think that you're on some level that your partner has done something bad, and I don't think that somebody's sexual behaviour, unless it's harmful to others or harmful to themselves, can be bad. I don't think somebody's number makes them a bad person. But if on some level that's in your head, then either you have to it's a process of forgiveness and letting go, or it's a process of changing your values. And I can't say how long that would take, really, but it's a piece of string, really. Retroactive jealousy in general can be turned around in between 6 months and a year. I always say there's 3 conditions that need to be met for that to happen. One is the right guidance. The other is a daily recovery program, and the other is to prioritize it above everything else. If you do those 3 things, retroactive jealousy, and you get all those things right, then you can recover and have it under control in as little as 6 months to a year. And during that 6 months, it's gradually getting better. So it's not like you're waiting 6 months and then you suddenly get better. It's like you during the course of that recovery program, you're getting better and better. So Dawn C. So Dawn is one of our therapists. So she knows the answer to this, really. She's just sending me a question that she thinks would be helpful for me to answer. How does a person with RJ overcome the misperception that in order to experience love, they have to experience RJ? That's really interesting, isn't it? So there's a big presupposition in that question that people with retroactive jealousy feel that the retroactive jealousy goes hand in hand with love. Which of course it doesn't. For people without retroactive jealousy, there's no connection at all. It's not an issue. So one thing, and this comes very much from Zachary Stockhill, is it's important not to over romanticize the relationship and put the partner on a pedestal, because that's you think you're experiencing love, but it's more distortion that you're experiencing, and you need to kill some of those distortions to stop experiencing the retroactive jealousy. How does a person with retroactive, this is the hardest question, I think, how does a person with RJ overcome the misperception that in order to experience love they have to experience retroactive jealousy? I think really everything in the therapeutic process or the recovery process that we recommend will work on that. I can't think of anything kind of a specific remedy for that misperception, other than, I mean, really therapy. Really, you need to, to talk that one through over time. I know that's a bit of a vague answer, but that's probably the best I can do at the moment. And I think this is the last question. Awesome set. Do you help others besides family or your channel? Yes, we do. That's what we're all about. So we have a team of therapists, specialist therapists called Retroactive, and we provide online therapy to people all over the world for retroactive jealousy. That's basically on a business model, business level. That sort of pays some of the bills. But we regularly make free videos, self-help videos on which we put out on YouTube, including a whole recovery program. I think it's like 35 days worth of recovery program that people can follow, and that's all completely free. There's loads of stuff we do for free. We've got a Patreon channel which also got free stuff on there. It's also got some hypnotherapy session, because I'm a hypnotherapist. So we provide counselling, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy. If people sign up to Patreon, we also give them a bit of free online recovery support. It's not therapy, but I will correspond with people and answer their questions and give guidance and that kind of thing. And there's probably some other ways that we help as well. We try and cover as many angles as we can, really. So there's therapy that we provide, and there's cost for that, and hypnotherapy that we provide. But there's a whole bunch of free resources. There's over 120 free retroactive recovery videos on YouTube that anyone can access. So, excuse me. I hope I've answered all those questions fully and helpfully. If I've missed the point, or if there's a follow-on question, just get back in touch. I won't necessarily respond to the video. I might just respond to you directly, or I might do another video. I like doing question videos. Thanks so much for the great response to this. We've had some a load of really good questions. Some quite challenging ones, which is good. And some interesting ones. If you want to know a little bit more about that, the basic stuff, what is retroactive jealousy and what the symptoms are, check out the videos, because we've got one video or a two-parter video that talks about the symptoms in detail, and we've got an introduction to retroactive jealousy that talks about it in general, again in a lot more detail. So thank you again, and if you've got retroactive jealousy, or your partner has retroactive jealousy, we can help. We work with partners as well. If you can spread the word on this, because too many people are suffering in silence, and people with retroactive jealousy get a bad deal, because people accuse them of being sexist, even though it affects as many men as it does women. It's equal across the genders, but particularly if men get it, they get given really short shrift, and get told that they're just being judgmental and stuff like that. But actually, it's an illness. It definitely is an illness. It's got all the symptoms of that. It can be recovered from. One of the reasons I'm involved in this is that I had it, and I've learned an awful lot from my own recovery and from the recovery of the hundreds of people that I've worked with along the way to their recovery. So it's all good news. Retroactive jealousy isn't good news, but once you realise you've got it, and once you find your way towards getting the right help, you can do it. Don't despair. So thanks again for watching. If you're watching this today, at the time that I put this video out, it's New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year, and I will catch you in the next video, which may or may not be about retroactive jealousy. So the YouTube channel covers all kinds of things. It's primarily about retroactive jealousy, but I don't just bang out retroactive jealousy videos all the time, because that would just mean kind of basically scraping the barrel for things to talk about, or basically doing the same video twice, but trying to make it look different. So we do lots of other stuff on the channel, because that keeps the channel current and makes people watch the channel. That's what you need when you have a YouTube channel. And when I've got something useful to say about retroactive jealousy, we do a retroactive jealousy video. So thanks again, and thanks so much for the response. Lots of love, Rangimarie.